Hey guys, it's Smurfs. Welcome back to Harpies in the Trees, where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. In today's video, we are going to do 2 book reviews, one for The Vessel by Adam Nevill and The Macabre Collection by David Haines. So I think I'm going to have my setup be like this for a little bit until I get my basement situation figured out, which is not looking good because there is a ton of stuff down there now. We have a huge table, the one table that I used to film on, that we need to sell, and nobody wants it. So I don't know what we're going to do with it, but it's huge and I got to get it out of there. But I think this will be kind of cool. This is the first time I've ever had a traditional BookTube background before. I mean, like I've never had that, so I think it's kind of fun to actually have my books out here and things like that. So it'll kind of be looking like this for a little bit. Before we jump into the review, be sure to like and comment and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. The Vessel was sent to me by Adam Nevill, which I completely appreciate. I love Adam Nevill. He's probably one of my favorite authors of all time. If you've been here, you know I mentioned that a lot. So I was just really stoked that he reached out to me because, of course, I want to read anything and everything Nevill. This story is pretty cool, but what's really also amazing is this artwork. It has just a real vibe to it, and it really does bring out the sinister quality of one of the characters in this book. So this story is about Jess, who is a caretaker of the elderly. She has a young daughter who is sort of suffering from kids bullying her at school, and Jess is having to come and pick her up pretty often. She's also trying to keep her ex-husband out of her life because he just likes to show up when he feels like it, even though he shouldn't be. And most importantly, she's trying not to get fired because it seems like her performance at work has been not that great. Jess gets assigned to an elderly woman named Flo, who lives at this place called Nerthus House. Meeting Flo was not really the greatest moment ever, especially since Flo seems to say things and do things that are quite shocking. And while Jess is caring for Flo, she's also exploring this Nerthus house. It's big, it's dark, it seems very vast, and it seems to be a little bit trapped in time. And this house begins to tell a story. What I liked about The Vessel was just how creepy Flo was. Like, she was just scary because she's unpredictable. Dementia. Is she actively doing something? So I think it's like that unknown quality of something that appears to be so helpless, so fragile, so delicate can act that way. There's a lot of uncertainty in the book. A lot of the characters, almost all of them, like none of them feel safe. They're either like not in a safe situation or they're not a safe person. So you're just sort of like worried for everyone in some ways. And at first I really disliked Flo because I was just like, what a you know, she was just, I mean, she's pretty nasty. And I feel like if I was Jess, I would just be like, okay, yeah, guess who's not getting a goodbye today when I leave? So you're just constantly seeing this relationship go back and forth, and you're just kind of cringing, and you're like sort of embarrassed for Jess, and you're just like, man, let it go. You know, like she don't want anything to do with you. Jess's character is like very familiar. You know, you might be like Jess, or you might know someone like Jess who's just, you know, they're just trying to make it work and doing their hardest to do that, you know, and they're not perfect. And that does make Jess a very likable character. Also, her daughter in the book is very much like a little kid, because sometimes it's like kids come off as like too cute and dumb, or like too smart that it doesn't make any sense. The house that all of this is taking place in is very, very interesting. It's dark, it has a lot of rooms, it's like a tomb. Like, it hasn't really changed that much since, I imagine, Flo's life changed with her just getting older or her dementia, but Jess is kind of exploring all of this, and I told you, like, a story starts to play out from it, and there's all of these objects and items. They're very unusual and strange, and it begins to tell this very kind of gruesome story, kind of a sad story, interesting story. And I think one of my favorite parts of this book was kind of just like looking through all of these rooms, because I just really was not sure what I would find. And what we do find is pretty weird, pretty strange. In the synopsis, it already mentions that there are like these kind of pagan-like items in the house, and there's definitely something else going on here, and that unfurls in a really nice way. This book is super short. I actually listened to the audiobook because I wanted to just illustrate while I was listening, and it's like 4 hours. I feel like this story could have been longer. So I think like my gripe with it was just like I wanted more. Like I wanted it to be like a longer story. And I sort of wanted to get a little bit more deeper into, just the history of all the stuff that's going on. But besides that, it was a really great audiobook. The woman who narrated it was very good. She also had a kind of like a slightly needy tone to her vocalization of the character Jess. So I feel like it worked really, really well. All in all, I think it was a very cool story. It is definitely a little bit different than what we always kind of see in these type of themes. I don't want to tell you what the theme is because it's not mentioned in the synopsis, and I think it's like something to discover on your own. But you could probably take a guess from the cover, maybe. I don't know. Now, is this story scary? I'd say, yeah, it is scary. It has really gruesome moments. It has some very creepy situations. There is Jess and her ex-husband who have a relationship that, is kind of real world scary. And Flo, and there is a tension with Flo because we don't know what she's up to. And it's real creepy. I don't think this one was like the most scariest Nevill book I've ever read, but it's definitely pretty good. So my rating for this one is 4 out of 5. The Macabre Collection. So this is a book that I picked up. It was just sort of like one of those late night, purchasing book situations. And it was a box set. Not really a box set when it came. It's all in one book, but that's whatever. Took a gamble on it, and I'm so glad that I did because it was really amazing. So this is essentially made up of 3 books that have short stories and just all compiled into this one book. The first book is The Mask of the Macabre. The second one is The Ballet of Bones. And the third one is Seance of the Souls. So each book has its theme. Mask of the Macabre, so it's mask. Belly of Bones, it's, about skeletons and bones, and the seance is about the seance and things like that. I'll tell you really quickly like how each one of these begins. So in the Mask of the Macabre, this series starts out with a young man named John who's off to see a performance at the Opera Macabre. And it's there that he is watching this disturbing show. But it's not for the first time. He's like kind of obsessed with this opera. He desperately wants to speak to the star of the show, some actor named Fetiplas, and is led to the actor's dressing room where he gets to meet him. And he's very beguiled by this actor. Before John leaves, he notices a small door in the wall, like really tiny, like maybe like a crawl space. And he asks Fetiplas what it is. And the actor tells him that
that's the place where he keeps all of his secrets.
John leaves, but he becomes obsessed again, but this time over that door. In the Ballet of Bones, there is a wax gallery owner who is bemoaning like all of the failure that he has kind of contributed to this business. And he makes this decision that in order for him to keep up with the competition, he's going to need to exploit marginalized people, the deformed, the maimed, the sick, whatever. He doesn't really want to do this, but he cannot let this gallery go into closure because it was his father's, and he just feels like he can't let it go to the ground, even though it kind of already is. While he's out on his escapade and failing at that as well, he is met by this very well-to-do man, upper class, top hat, mustache, really nicely tailored clothes. And he says to him, he says,
Oh, I love the Gallery of Wax. That place was amazing and it really should come back to its glory. I want to help you bring it back to its beautiful days.
the gallery owner is sort of suspect, but he's so desperate that he's like, well, he looks rich, so how bad could it be? Pretty bad, actually. In Sands of the Souls, we start off with a funeral of a father who leaves behind 2 small children, a boy and a girl, but who become adopted by their uncle. One night, the kids are sneaking around because they know that there is some kind of party going on in their uncle's house, and like kids aren't allowed, so they're trying to find a way to just peek and see what's going on in there. And what they see is a seance, and what they hear is their father's voice. So the amazing thing about these stories are, one, they are, oh my god, they're so good. They're so wonderfully macabre, and they are very much in that kind of, I don't know, like vibe of like the Victorian era. Like they feel very much like they live there. All of the stories are connected. So you really have to start with, Mask of the Macabre and go up to the last one, because everything is connected. All of the characters that you run across that are like the main characters in the story, they come up again and again. And it could be like the tree that they were at, or the building that they were living. I mean, whatever. It's so cool. It's like all connected. It's like a little tiny microcosm. And I just really thought that was pretty fun. And they had that kind of macabre that I'm always craving. It's more like the horror of death. The stories are really, really interesting. I like where they went and what they were exploring. And it's not really about demons and ghosts and things that go bump in the night. It's what I like about the Victorian era as a very creepy era. And it's not because of like the lady in black and ghosts, children, and all that kind of stuff. The fact like it was such a dangerous time period. You had all this industrialization of production. You had these horrible like pseudosciences, experiments, and things that were killing people. H.H. Holmes, Jack the Ripper, felt like such a dangerous time. Like everything is trying to kill you, from like your arsenic wallpaper to the gas lights in your home to like people on the street. It just feels so scary to me. So this was really good. It was a binge read for me. And because I loved it so much, I picked up another David Haines book. I started reading it and I don't know, it wasn't really doing it for me, unfortunately. So I don't know why that would be, but it is. But I think this is brilliant. I do have a favorite book though here, and it's The Ballet of Bones. That one was really just, I think, the standout one for me out of the 3, even though the other 2 were great. Ballet of the Bones was, I don't know, it was phenomenal. Like I thought it was so cool. I think this is the first time like I read a book where it was like, ooh, I'm so scary, or I'm so macabre, or whatever. And it actually was. A lot of the time when I get short story collections and they're like,
the scariest stories in the world,
and you're just, I mean, there's a few scary ones, but you're like, eh. But I feel like this one really did stand up to its name. It's cool. So I gave this one 5 out of 5. It read like a book. It didn't have any unnecessary fluff, and it was disturbing. It had a lot of visual descriptions that were just amazing, and really interesting macabre stories. I hope you guys liked this review. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. Please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.